Human desire functions like a vacuum. When it isn't restrained by a moral framework, it creates an internal void that demands to be filled, growing larger with every attempt to satisfy it. In the environment of ancient Arabia, where trade routes served as the city's pulse, the accumulation of gold wasn't a luxury, it was the primary metric for survival and status. Operating on the fringes of this society were three bandits. Khalim was the architect of their schemes, Mofis provided the raw physical force to breach any defense, and Salim served as the lookout, motivated more by fear than by conviction. These none were the apex predators of the desert. Merchants and caravanards spoke their names in whispers, knowing the trio viewed other people simply as obstacles standing between them and their property. After years of living by theft, they had spent decades ignoring the human cost of their violence. Their moral compasses were paralyzed, clearing the path for a crime that would violate the sanctity of the dead. Khalim targeted a specific ancient graveyard, rumored to hold the remains of forgotten kings. He believed that the dirt of these tombs concealed a massive hoard of gold and precious stones. Moving from robbing caravans to desecrating graves is a significant psychological shift. They were no longer just breaking the laws of men, but intentionally disturbing a space held sacred by every culture in the region. They entered the graveyard under the cover of night. The air was still, thick with the scent of dry earth and old stone as they moved between the crumbling markers of the deceased. They found no sprawling royal monuments. Instead, they discovered three isolated, unassuming graves that stood apart from the rest, marked by weather-beaten stone tablets that seemed to absorb the moonlight. They had come for ancient gold, prepared to dig until they found a payout. But in this place of silence, they had unwittingly placed themselves in a position to be confronted by a reality that gold could not buy. Mofis shattered the first stone seal. Instead of the expected glimmer of coins, they found a single leather scroll, preserved for centuries within a small limestone box. The scroll contained a hadith stating, if the son of Adam possessed a valley of gold, he would immediately seek a second one. It concluded, nothing fills the hunger of the human heart, except the dust of the grave, the finality of death. This was a diagnosis. It identified their lifelong pursuit of wealth, not as a path to security, but as a recurring hunger that could never be satisfied through more consumption. Digging into the second grave revealed a piece of dry bread and a story. It told of a man who, despite his own starvation, gave his last meal to a stray dog, choosing the survival of another over his own. This grave presented sabr, or moral endurance. It is the specific strength required to resist a base impulse to uphold a higher principle. Instead of taking from others to avoid hardship, dignity is found in enduring hunger for the sake of mercy. If the first grave provided the diagnosis, the second provided a potential cure. It showed that the void of greed is filled by discipline and empathy, not by more possessions. The final grave contained a broken mirror and a rosary. It detailed the life of a notorious highwayman who, late in his life, acknowledged his crimes and sought a path of radical honesty. Looking at the fractured glass, the thieves were forced to see past their reputations. For the first time, they weren't looking for a target, they were looking at the stains on their own characters. The account of a fellow criminal who changed his life removed their final excuse. It proved that their past actions didn't have to dictate their future, provided they were willing to face the truth. This third grave served as a mirror. It established that self-accountability is the only way out of a life defined by exploitation. As the morning air cooled the graveyard, the trio sat in silence. The traps and weapons they had relied on for years offered no defense against the words they had just read. The realization that they had wasted their lives on a hollow pursuit began to weigh on them. Confronting the mechanics of tawbah, or repentance, is a rigorous process. It requires immediate cessation of harm, genuine remorse, and a resolve never to return to old behaviors. Finally, when a crime involves others' property, the individual must pursue restitution, returning what was taken. At daybreak, they returned to the city streets. They didn't retreat into shadows. They sought out the families and merchants they had wronged, beginning the difficult work of returning what they had stolen. This transformation required them to face the very people they had victimized. They had to accept the public shame and legal consequences of their history to make their change permanent. The three men lived out the rest of their years in quiet, honest trades. Kaleem managed a small shop, Mafiz worked the soil as a farmer, and Salim built a modest poultry farm. They replaced their drive for extraction with the practice of taqwa, a constant awareness of moral boundaries, and tawakkul, a trust that honest work would provide what they needed. Their story suggests that no matter how deep the cycle of greed, the choice to change remains open. True wealth is eventually measured by the degree of contentment in a person's heart, rather than the amount of gold in their possession.